All right. I'm ready to do an audio podcast recording. I still hear the echoing, though. And so it's definitely...
One of us.
It's definitely
Todd Whitehead.
you. It's definitely you.
I was muted too.
How is that occurring?
I don't know. It stopped now.
In the ear nubs.
Maybe the nubs are just loud. Are you hard of hearing? Are you hard of hearing, Todd?
I'm sorry, who's talking? There, I turned them way down.
Todd, can you talk continuously for 15 seconds?
I can talk continuously for 15 seconds. In the beginning, the universe was created. This has made a lot of people very angry and has been widely regarded as a bad move.
How about you, Tom? Go.
This is the Daily Tech News. In a minute, as soon as we finish figuring out this audio. Okay, it's gone now. I don't hear it at all. So, all right.
I turned them down.
Carry on, wayward sounds. Here we go.
Would you want to support independent projects and artists and creativity? Go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com.
This is the Daily Tech News for Thursday, February 5th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, the creator of Alpha Geek Radio, Mr. Todd Whitehead, is back on the show. Bienvenido, Toddo.
Thank you very much.
I could barely hear that.
I don't know why.
Oh, it was probably because the music was up so loud. Now I can hear you just fine. How's things going down Alpha Geek country?
Oh, crazy. New shows every day, lots of growth, and learning how to suddenly have to provision 3 video channels because kids these days want moving pictures.
The talkies. I don't think they'll catch on personally, but
Jazz singer.
we'll talk about that in our discussion story today about the annual appearance of the Apple TV rumor. Now, Todd, if I have it right, when the Apple TV rumor appears, if it gets denied within 3 days, that means 6 more years of Apple TV rumors. Is that how it works?
6 more years of bundled, crappy cable.
Bundled cable. All right, let's take a look at the headlines. Hey, remember the Swatch watch? No?
Yes.
Damn kids. Well, it was a super popular casual watch from the 1980s. Swatch stands for second watch, in case you didn't know that. According to Bloomberg Business, the Swiss watch company plans to sell a smartwatch or perhaps a swart watch. Because Swatch? Never mind. Swatch CEO Nick Hayek said in an interview that the device will use NFC, let consumers make mobile payments, and somehow won't have to be charged. Sounds divine. I would like to see more details because it's still supposedly going to work with Windows and Android software. It may be available by April, which would be around the same time as the Apple Watch. This strikes me, Todd, as the CEO of Swatch telling me everything I want to hear for the most part.
Yeah, and it probably changes the oil in your car while you sleep too. It's everything old is new again. I can understand why they want to leverage their existing brand, but cramming a smartwatch into a Swatch housing, okay, but the whole magically not charging thing or not needing to
unless
charge?
It's just a regular Swatch that has NFC.
Yeah, so it's just near field communication where you just identify.
Because that's not a big power drain, but then it wouldn't do much else, is my guess.
Well, maybe they're not shooting high. Maybe they're going for the little plastic disposable watches that you use and throw away every 3rd week.
Yeah.
But
you don't have to recharge the battery when you throw it away every 3rd week.
The Verge obtained a message written by Twitter CEO Dick Costolo on an internal forum taking personal responsibility for Twitter's harassment and abuse problems. After an employee asked what they could do to stop cyberbullying, Costolo wrote, "We suck at dealing with abuse and trolls on the platform, and we've sucked at it for years. It's no secret, and the rest of the world talk about it every day." Costolo said, "We're going to start kicking these people off right and left and making sure that when they issue their ridiculous attacks, nobody hears them."
War on the trolls has been declared.
Begin the shadow banning.
Yeah, I am not disputing Mr. Costolo's evaluation of his own company, and he took pains to make it clear to his employees apparently that he holds himself responsible for the problem. He's not trying to shift the blame, but I don't think Twitter is even the worst out there. I mean, there's plenty of arenas on the internet where the abuse is worse. That said, I'm very glad to see Twitter giving some serious attention to this, and I look forward to hearing more about what they plan to do.
Yeah, I don't think they'll ever be able to fix it completely because that would mean fixing people. But you can certainly put up a good defense against it.
Yeah.
There's hope. Cheering for them.
Hey, do you hear that? Do you hear that? That's the sound of NDAs lifting. Last June at WWDC, Apple announced the Photos app, the replacement for Aperture and iPhoto, and previews abound on the internet today. The Verge has one of them. They report key highlights include iCloud integration. When you take a pic on your iPhone, it will automatically be uploaded to your iCloud drive. There's also a new auto crop tool, a new zoom out view, and new square book formats. Keep in mind, you won't have the same level of granular control, especially compared to Aperture's Pixel Peepers level of tweaking. So don't delete Aperture or iPhotos for photos or iPhoto yet. Apps are available for developers to download in the beta version of OS X that includes Photos now, and it'll be coming to the rest of us later this year.
Yeah, it makes sense. They've given us all these devices with progressively better cameras, and they felt they needed to do a ground-up rewrite to truly integrate the cloud features and give people. I don't know. People were really entrenched in Aperture and were kind of upset when this was announced. So here's hoping they deliver.
Well, it's a little bit what they did with Final Cut, right? They're simplifying it, and that makes the power user upset. But they're also improving some aspects of it. In this case, they're really improving the photo collection management aspect of things.
Oh, so new Coke.
Yeah. Although you need to pay for iCloud if you really want to take advantage of the photo collection part of it.
Shocking. What a surprise.
Yeah.
Bloomberg reports Twitter has licensed direct access to its data, the so-called fire hose, to Google. While Google can index and include Twitter posts in its search without paying, access to the fire hose allows for posts to show up in search as soon as they are posted. Engineers are working on the connection, which should start having an effect sometime in the first half of this year. So they've refined their tool for searching everything, just the heart of the Google empire, and now they're going for the temporal aspect. We're going to let you search it as soon as it comes into existence.
And Bing and Yahoo already pay for Firehose access, so this is Google playing catch-up a little bit. I imagine it's one of those things that to each individual listening probably doesn't going to make that much difference in your life. You're not suddenly going to be like, how did I live without Twitter showing up immediately after a post happens in Google? But there are certain situations where I've run into it where I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I can't really get like the current Twitter things, and then I just end up going to Twitter to search for current events in those situations. But I imagine it will have a positive effect on Google, so it's probably worth whatever amount of money they're paying.
Yeah, these real-time services, you look at Reddit, and they have a severe problem with their search engine. It's a recurring joke that it is mostly useless because of the huge influx of data that's passing through their system. This is a similar problem, and I think Google's probably up to the challenge.
Buried in a history of why Google Glass died, the New York Times reported a nugget of hope for the product. According to people with knowledge of Tony Fadell's plans, Ivy Ross's team, the team that is reporting to Tony Fadell and working on Glass, will be redesigning Glass from scratch and will not release it until it's complete. So they're going to overhaul the look of it, the design of it, just use the tech, and then not do any of this Explorer program public beta stuff.
Just straight to market.
Yep. To market. It also means, as I have suspected, that Google Glass is probably not dead. They're just rebooting it.
And they maybe just scaled back that this maybe won't be the wearable that goes mainstream. It'll find its niche and happily there.
That's possible too.
Recode has this year's winter tale of Apple creating a TV service. This year's rumor takes the form of Apple in preliminary talks with TV programmers to create bundles of programming to be sold directly to programmers or to consumers over the web. With Sling TV and PlayStation Vue in beta and HBO and Verizon services expected later this year, this could be the year that Apple television service rumor comes true. How many times have we said that? But just don't be too shocked if the autumn rumor about talks with Apple falling apart makes its usual appearance. And we'll be talking about this in more detail.
BT has confirmed it's acquiring UK mobile network service company EE from Orange and Deutsche Telekom for $19 billion. The move will allow BT to sell its broadband, fixed telephony, and pay TV services to all those Everything Everywhere customers, EE customers, who don't already subscribe to BT's offerings. EE has a subscriber base of 33 million in the UK and had the largest 4G customer base in Europe.
So
It's a good pickup for BT. It's going to expand things, but it's a little consolidation, which I know that market doesn't need.
there's not a ton of competition there. The Verge reports Mattel and Google will hold a joint event February the 13th in New York, the day before Toy Fair 2015. The invite features a graphic reminiscent of the Viewmaster and reads, Mattel invites you to view what's possible with exclusive announcement and product debut, followed by the Mattel and Google logos.
Are we going to get some kind of virtual reality dumbed down into a Viewmaster-like experience?
I'm thinking this is something that may have sprung from Google Cardboard.
Yeah.
Where they're probably going to say, here's a Viewmaster app.
Uh-huh.
Run on your smartphone. Oh, and by the way, we've already worked out depth of field, and here's your assemblage you put it into, and then you hand it to your kids.
Yes, totally. It's going to be a kid-safe Viewmaster-looking like case, and then you put your phone in it, and you have the Viewmaster app running, and you get like an even better Viewmaster. If you don't remember what Viewmaster was, it was like wheels of pictures. They were very small, but you put them in, and then they looked 3D when you looked at them. So this will be like better than 3D. It'll be surrounding you, and I bet you're right. I bet that's what it is, and then there'll probably be in-app purchases.
Well, duh.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
GigaOM reports Twitter earnings are out, $479.078 million in revenue, beat expectations of $453.1 million, and earnings per share of 12 cents beat expectations of 6 cents. User growth was not as rosy. Monthly average users went from 284 million in Q3 to 288 million in Q4. That is a 20% jump over Q4 last year, but analysts are already grouchy about the slow user growth at Twitter. I don't think this is going to make them less grouchy. They're a grouchy bunch sometimes, though. And it's time for some news from you, a couple of highlights from the subreddit. Go check out the Daily Tech News Show subreddit at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. It is on its own a fantastic source of technology news from other folks in the audience that you can look at. You can submit your own. You can vote on the others to see which ones should rise up to the top. We appreciate everybody that participates there in any way possible. Hobbit from PA sent us the story from NBC reporting that the FBI is investigating an attack on IT systems of Anthem, one of the largest health insurance companies in the U.S. Anthem spokesperson Kristen Binns said attackers obtained personal information relating to consumers and Anthem employees who are currently covered or who have received coverage in the past. Here's the information they say was accessed: names, birth dates, social security numbers, addresses, income data, employment information, and email address. So no credit card numbers, no medical data as far as what they're saying. Anthem serves customers in 14 states in the United States.
Welcome to the information age.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where I believe this is becoming the trend for attackers to go after health data. Because health data, your credit card data is shut down pretty quickly. As soon as someone gets a fraud alert, the banks have gotten pretty good about this. Medical data can be useful for a longer period of time once you steal it because it's not locked down as fast.
And it doesn't trigger automatic account closures and card cancellations. And that package of data is an identity theft toolkit. That's all the stuff you make.
Absolutely. Even if they're not getting your medical info per se, they're hoping that they might get some. And these social security numbers, email addresses, all of that stuff. This stuff is hard to protect against. You have to protect against the system entry. There's a good article in Ars Technica by Dan Gooden pointing out that even if this stuff had been encrypted properly, if they get into the operating system has the decryption key in it. So it's quite possible for them to still access it even if it's encrypted. So he's saying encryption isn't really the issue here. It's system security. Interesting take.
starfuryzeta sent us the next web report that Under Armour, a company that makes workout clothes, has acquired personal training app Endomondo. Couldn't wait to say that. For $85 million, and diet and exercise counter MyFitnessPal for $475 million. MyFitnessPal has 80 million users, and Endomondo has 20 million. Add to that the 120 million users of MapMyFitness, already owned by Under Armour, and that is a huge community of people who just might need some exercise clothes.
Yeah, the Under Armour site right now is really highlighting the fact, like, we've got these 3 apps. We're app people. And remember, like, Nike's definitely doing apps for their workout lines, but they're getting away from really like getting into creating devices. So it's like Under Armour's coming into the game a little late, but these are good apps. My wife uses Endomondo regularly. She loves it.
Yeah, this is an interesting strategic acquisition on their part, but when you stop and think about it, it makes total sense.
Yeah. And that, my friends, is a look at the headlines. All right. I want to talk about the Apple TV rumor. Todd, I'm curious why you want to talk about it before I say why I do.
Because I so want it to come true someday. And we've seen, and in a world where the FCC seems to be making the sensible decision, which we did not expect early on in that discussion, and we're seeing the movement elsewhere in the industry. So we've got HBO quietly declaring, hey, we're going to go directly to consumers, the Sling TV. The environment has changed to the point where this is a real possibility. I was spending time in the last week getting the new radio channels into the Apple TV system and was reminded just how close to perfect the Apple TV as an entertainment device. It's just missing a few crucial things, like an easy way to access either live television or on-demand version of live shows without having to go through a third-party service like Hulu. Since you'll never see the Amazon app on there because they're too much blood competitors, we have to wait for Apple to get their version just to fill in those content gaps. But it's technology-wise, they've already solved the problem. The delivery mechanism and the network is in place. The iTunes behemoth for delivering content is already there. They just need to work out the money side of things and have the desire to get into this method of getting to divorce themselves from the old school thinking of, no, we only deliver this way and it's paid for by advertisements and anything else is heresy. And get rid of that old guard and get somebody in there that says, no, this is the future. We have to get on board this bus now before it's too late.
Yeah, I feel like you nailed it when you said the fact that we have HBO coming. CBS already launched their own streaming service. We have one coming from Nickelodeon as well. Sling TV and PlayStation Vue are in beta. Verizon OnQ is expected to come. So this feels more like something that could happen because it's already happening elsewhere. And like you said, it's the money and the licensing, and those two are kind of intertwined, that have caused Apple to have problems in the past. I put together a brief timeline of Apple television rumors. It goes all the way back to November 2nd, 2009. Peter Kafka mentioned this in his Recode article because he's the guy who wrote the story in 2009 for All Things D about Apple trying to get a $30 a month service delivered through iTunes. Now, at the time, it wasn't targeting Apple TV. This is pre-iPad days, by the way. This is how far back it goes. Then we kept hearing, oh, maybe next year, maybe next year, maybe next year, until March 1st, 2012, the New York Post said, Apple's getting serious. They're trying to get a cable operator to launch a streaming TV service with them by Christmas. So it looked like they had gone from saying, we want to be the service provider, to saying we want to partner with a service provider. And the rumors stayed there for a couple of years. Most recently, last year, February 12th, Apple was supposedly in talks with Time Warner Cable to bring a custom app to Apple TV and be the hardware. So instead of getting a cable box from Time Warner, you would get an Apple TV and you get Time Warner Cable Internet, and then you'd be able to access your Time Warner Cable television programming over the Apple TV. Well, that was February 12th that was published. February 13th, if you recall, Comcast announced that they intended to try to acquire Time Warner Cable, which is still going on through regulatory approval. So that rumor in March became Comcast and Apple are in talks about some kind of partnership, and apparently that fell apart. In August 2014, The Information reported that talks had stalled. And so here we go again. Now they're back to talking to the networks. They're like, okay, it didn't work with Time Warner Cable and Comcast. Let's go back to the networks directly because the networks are doing things. And maybe we can get CBS to do their streaming service through us. Maybe we can get a Sling TV-like bundle. In fact, that's what the Recode report says. Apple would put together bundles of programming, but not an entire TV lineup. People are signing these kinds of deals. Why won't they sign them with us? And Todd, here, let me tell you what I think is going to be the stumbling block and why we might not see Apple TV this year. And tell me what you think of this. Apple always wants control of the user engagement part of the equation. That's why they have problems with Amazon Kindle. That's why they've had problems with magazines and newsstand and subscription sales. They want to hold the user ID. And even the broadcasters now are like, no, we want that relationship with the customer. And right now on Apple TV, they have that relationship. You don't use your Apple ID to authenticate apps on Apple TV right now. And that combined with the fear that if Apple has too much leverage, that they'll end up doing what they did to music, to television, which I think is probably more of a psychological factor than a real concern, but just makes them wary when dealing with Apple versus saying, yeah, of course, you guys are great. We'll sign on the dotted line. Let's come to an agreement.
I think none of them wants to be the one that breaks the seal. It's that the currency of the future for these people as they leave behind the advertisers as being their reason for existing. The customer data portion becomes king. I mean, what does Google do? They harvest untold amounts of information and then make gobs of money off of it. This is a similar pile of info, viewing habits, all the stuff that Nielsen tried to do without direct technology feedback, Apple can do in their sleep. So it's this really detailed information about who's watching what, when, and by what means that they can then be sold to advertisers saying, hey, you want to target your market? We will only show your ads to people who are almost guaranteed to be interested in your stuff. That's huge. And I can understand why the networks would say, no, we want to own that piece. We don't want to buy that data from you. These are our viewers that are coming through your system. Why should you own that piece? So I can imagine that's a lot of what their conversations are about is who owns that, or can they come to some kind of model where that's a shared pile of data that they both have the right to use for things. Which may be a way they can work it up, but I don't see the egos involved necessarily liking that idea.
And then I would add to that the Frogger-like log flume negotiation that's going on as they progress towards over-the-top television, right? Back in 2009, when Apple started these talks, there was a very different atmosphere, which was we can't do anything that angers the cable operators because we're in constant fights over the amount they pay us. We're in constant fights over promotion, and doing this might give them leverage in those negotiations. Well, now everybody realizes where the future is, and everybody's kind of saying, okay, HBO, I guess you can do your direct-to-consumer product as long as you have a max on how many subscriptions you have, and you're really going after people who wouldn't buy our services anyway. Maybe it's a way to get them back, etc. Like they're easing up. They're taking baby steps into this arena, but the logs are flying back and forth, and it's very hard to traverse. And I think that Apple is having more difficulty with that than others because of their history, and sort of not untrustworthiness, but how do we know you're not going to steal all of this away from us? Meanwhile, Apple's looking at their Apple TV, if I'm right, saying we've got an ABC app, we've got an NBC app, we've got a Fox app, we've got an FX app. We have all your channels. Just let people pay us to be the authentication instead of paying somebody else. Right now they have to go pay Comcast or Time Warner Cable. Let them pay us. And then they can authenticate through that. And that's where we got to be able to do it in a way that doesn't jeopardize our other relationships comes in.
Yeah, this is much more looking to be a replacement product for traditional cable television. So they couldn't really make the argument that, oh, no, we're going after people that you're not. And it was like, no, people will trade in their cable subscription for this. In large droves, I would think, if the offering was good enough.
Yeah.
I so want this to progress, and I understand all the corporate shenanigans that are happening behind the scenes that have prevented it thus far and are still. But I'm hoping the pressure from other people moving forward and leaving them behind will make the parties involved in the front say, okay, we should probably get this rolling because they will get my money.
Yeah. I'm paying for Sling TV right now, and I see the promise in it. It's not there. It's definitely in beta, which they're saying this is a beta product. But PlayStation View, Sling TV, OnQ launches by the end of this year. Apple or not, we're going to be having choices by the end of 2015 to do this.
And best offering gets my dollar, so dust them off. Show me what you got.
Come and woo Todd Whitehead's dollars.
It's all about me.
Real quickly, before we get to the pick of the day, Darren Kitchen is off the entire month of February on Hack Across Europe. You can learn more at hack5.org. But he was nice enough to send us his first dispatch from the field. He isn't quite to Europe yet, but we'll let him explain.
Hey, Tom and DTNS friends. I am coming to you from the Hack 5 Hack Across Europe tour, and I am now at the happiest place on Earth, Disneyland. I know, I figured I'd get my It's a Small World in before leaving the country. I'm actually in the van inside the Mickey and Friends parking structure, and that whirring noise you're hearing is me possibly violating the national airspace. You see, the FAA considers drones unmanned aerial systems, and unlike European nations that seem to have it figured out with straightforward rules like, keep your aircraft under a certain altitude or a certain number of feet away from people and buildings, the FAA is really struggling to come up with regulations. I mean, as it stands, the FAA is calling to regulate unmanned aerial systems with classifications like under 55 pounds. That kind of leaves a lot of wiggle room, especially when you consider the quadcopter I'm flying right now inside the van, inside a parking garage. Yeah, that's right. It's a drone. It's under 55 pounds. Sure, it weighs a mere 2 ounces. It measures 1 inch by 1 inch. By definition, this toy, with a maximum range of 50 feet and a battery life under 2 minutes could be considered a UAS under the upcoming regulations. And being within 5 nautical miles of Disneyland puts this toy potentially in violation of the national airspace, considering the flight restriction or no-fly zone that's been in effect since the early 2000s. Now, thankfully, part of the regulation process is a comment period, and I'm sure I will be making my case when that time comes. But until then, I'm buzzing around a legal gray area. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the Chinese-made quadcopter toy is silk-screened with an American flag. See you guys.
I love that he's in a van in a parking garage and explaining how what he's doing right there in his own van could possibly be considered against the law. Thank you, Darren, for sending that. And like I said, go check out Hack Across Europe, especially if you're in Europe. You can go find Darren and meet up, hak5.org. Pick of the day comes from Jamie in beautiful British Columbia. As 2015 started just a month ago, he wants a lot of people to have Map My Fitness as their app. Oddly enough, that was in the news today. The free version of this app provides a wealth of features to help you both track your various workouts as well as provide incremental audible updates as to your current pace and distance traveled. The GPS functionality will plot your walk and run on a map for you to save and use later, and you can save your favorite routes to use on a later date. It will also give you a weekly recap of how many workouts you did, total distance traveled, and total calories burned. It also works with many fitness trackers as well as uploading data to HealthKit on iOS. Can't say enough good things about it, says Jamie. So there you go. If you're curious about Map My Fitness, Jamie just told you a little more about it. Might be something you want to check out. Do you use any fitness apps yourself, Todd?
Yeah, I'm a Lose It man myself. It's the most device agnostic app I've found. So they support all kinds of different apps. I can bring my I bring my map, my run data into Lose It. I bring my up band info in. It has linkages for all the different services, so I can change the gear and the services I'm using 5 times a month if I want, and my data still stays housed in one place. That's what drew me to Lose It.
Nice. As I mentioned, my wife uses Endomondo, and I use Runkeeper as well as Nike Plus when I go running. So there's a couple other options for you as well. Also want to update people about Windscape. It was recommended as a pick of the day earlier, and apparently that was bad timing. Thomas Seidla emailed the company that makes it. He was the one who had the pick, Gaucho Software, and got this reply. Last week, the National Weather Service changed something on their servers, so I've been scrambling to update my apps for the change. Good news is the update to Windscape went live last night. So if you tried Windscape after it was our pick of the day and was like, hey, this isn't working, it should be working now. You just got to get the most recent update. That was just awful timing. So apologies to Windscape for that, and hopefully more people check it out. Send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. All right, shall we get a couple of net neutrality emails out of the way before, because we know a lot of people are into this. Vanderblugen has a question I think a lot of people had after seeing yesterday's wording of the open internet rules applying to broadband providers. They said, wait a minute, broadband. I was talking to somebody in the chat room about it, actually. Like, broadband, well, what about people who don't have broadband? Because the FCC recently redefined broadband to be defined as 25 megabits per second or more. Vanderblugen says, being that only a small percentage of people are going to be classified as having broadband under new broadband rules, do these new net neutrality rules apply to most people? I'll try to stay positive, but it seems with laws and rules like this, there's always one step forward and two steps back. Well, I haven't heard anyone in a position of officialness address this, but I do believe that more than a few people classify as having broadband. I think 83% of the United States has access to 25 megabits per second internet, which that should be 100% according to the FCC. So that's one of the issues there, but it's still not only a few people. I also think that if you don't have broadband access under this definition, then violating net neutrality isn't really going to advance you as a business. In other words, it's not the kind of thing you're going to get people to want to pay for prioritization on the slow lanes of people who aren't willing to pay to upgrade to 25 megabits per second. So it's probably not the kind of thing where suddenly nobody really has net neutrality because they don't have 25 megabits per second internet.
Yeah, rural areas that are underserved or served just by DSL.
Yeah.
This also ties back to, if it's not classified as broadband, they don't get federal subsidies for servicing these areas. So it's kind of supposed to encourage the ISPs to upgrade in these rural areas so they can get a little money kickback. And then the U.S. also gets more people on real broadband.
And then I got a really interesting email who said that one of the perspectives they thought was lost in the discussion of how we arrived at Title II was the amount of money spent by tech companies in the government. He said, I don't want to diminish the overwhelming outcry from citizens on the issue. This incredible shift in spending on lobbying efforts of internet tech companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon seems to change the tide on this subject. Before we go patting the backs of ourselves or government officials, is it not responsible to look at all the underlying causes? And he's got a lot of great links. We'll include these in the show notes to articles talking about the tech companies that got in on the side of the open internet rules and Title II that were passed. So this is not as grassroots as it is not entirely grassroots. It's a really good point.
Yeah, people bemoan, the degree to which corporations are running things more and more. This is a sign that that power can be used for good sometimes.
Well, if you think it's good, there are a lot of people who don't think this is good. And now you've got the same old argument of like, the lobbyists got their way. It was just the lobbyists on that side of the issue, not the lobbyists on the other side of the issue. Of course, that brings us into a whole issue of like how government is run and the influence of money on government. And for that, I direct you to Mr. Lawrence Lessig and his Root Strikers if you'd like to learn more. But I do think it's important to note that it wasn't the FCC just listening to the little guy. It was the FCC listening to 4 million responses plus lobbying efforts on both sides of the issue, for sure.
Want them to do. They're supposed to listen to all sides. That's supposed to be their job in this role.
And we got a lot of great responses to the request for alternatives to SoundGecko for Joe that we talked about yesterday. I sent them along to Joe. He's going to look through them and let us know if he finds a good replacement for SoundGecko. Among the suggestions were using IFT in various configurations, for instance, with Pocket. Umano is another one to look at, and VoiceStream. But like I said, Joe will let us know if he finds something good. So thanks to everybody who wrote in with suggestions. You guys are awesome, and Joe really appreciated it. And thank you, Todd Whitehead, for being on the show. Really appreciate that as well.
Anytime. Always have a good time.
You can find him on the Twitters, twitter.com/gnomewise. That's GNOMEWISE. And of course, alphageekradio.com. 3 channels plus live of goodness that you can get. How many different ways now? I listen to it on TuneIn Radio most of the time, but I can listen to it on my Amazon Echo now. I can get apps on my Roku. It's all over the place.
You were testing it for me on Fire TV the other day. It worked beautifully. Go to tunein.alphageekradio.com. It's where we're hosting our ultimate list of ways to listen. My goal is to have anything streamed on our network to be inescapable. I want you to listen on your potato.
And it's I've been using it when I'm out of podcasts and out of audiobook, which is actually pretty rare but there are gaps sometimes, and it's nice to be like, I'm just going to turn on Alpha Geek Radio and hear what's on. I heard one of Allison Sheridan's NosillaCasts the other day that way. I heard Beyond the Playlist interview with Brian Brushwood that was amazing the other day. So go check it out, man.
Yes,
AlphaGeekRadio.com.
Click on the shows tab and you'll see that list has gotten quite long, and more are coming. Winter is coming.
And thank you to the 4,803 patrons, plus PayPal supporters, plus Bitcoin supporters who keep the show alive. We are making better progress towards our goal of getting Veronica Belmont and Scott Johnson in as regular contributors. So if you've been meaning to support, do it now. dailytechnewsshow.com/support is the place to go. Stick around after the show if you're on the audio podcast, because we have some post-show segments from Jenny and an Amazon Echo review from Kirk. Jenny's looking at an Android tablet. We're going to start doing a little road test of that. And Kirk just unsolicited sent us his Amazon Echo review, which was awesome. Thank you for doing that, Kirk. I say unsolicited. He wrote me an email, and the email was great, but I was like, I can't read this email. Can you just record it? And he was nice enough to do that. So thank you for doing that, Kirk. Don't forget, you can have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can email us feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Give us a call, 512-59-DAILY, and listen to the show live, like we said, at alphageekradio.com, Monday through Friday, 4:30 Eastern. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Be back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young and Len Peralta. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Hooray!
Ending cackle is what makes it.
The cackle means it's working.
The cackler should get a nickel per cackle.
Did you highlight the journal intro in a way that I can see, Jenny?
What?
That's kind of cool.
What did I do?
I don't know
what I did.
But your Android journal WAV file is highlighted so that I don't forget it.
Whoa. Oh, in Slack?
No, in Dropbox.
Oh, I can't believe you can see that. I often highlight things in Dropbox, and nobody can ever see them.
Huh. Yeah,
I
see this one.
I just say, go find the highlighted thing, and they can't find it. But that's great.
Yeah,
I didn't know that worked.
I'm excited because I'm like, oh yeah, right. I got to not forget to put that in there.
Mm-hmm. I also added it to my page at the new place thing, and I made this awesome. I'm super excited about it. I made this awesome art for it, which is little Android Jenny with a little Android phone in her hand, looking like I do.
I
So
can't
I'm
wait
pretty
to see
excited
that.
about that.
When you say the usual place, what do you mean?
TellItAnyway.com. I do a thing.
Oh, that
You can put it there too. I didn't want to put it anywhere near the show notes because it has audio file deal. So you figure out where you want to put it, and then I'll give you the version that has the picture.
Well, I'm putting it in. I'm putting it at the end of this show.
Right.
Right.
So there's no picture at the end of the show.
Oh,
so I want to use
I
the
see what you're
picture.
saying.
It's so
we can
cute.
link
It's like,
to. Let me see. So you just we can link to here.
That's just where it's gonna live.
Hold on.
Look at me. 3 seconds into doing a podcast, and I'm shamelessly plugging it.
That's the way it works. That's what you do.
Right.
Right?
I'm gonna crawl under the desk in mortification and shame now.
The natural.
Wait, you have to unclick Roger.
I did.
No, it's still muted. Oh, maybe he did it.
Himself.
Maybe he's muting himself. I always feel bad. There we go. I always see the mute sign and I'm like, hey.
Well, you can just blame Tom. I do.
No, you know why? I actually shouldn't blame Tom because it looks like I also have access to it. So I could just do that.
I blame the both of you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the accurate apportionment of blame.
All right.
Oh,
Now-
this news just came in. Oh, that's lame. So the Pandora's stock falls more than 20%.
Yeah. I agree with both of your statements.
Mark Cuban looked like he was about to start a tweet storm about net neutrality and then only did 2. So
Oh.
I was about to be super excited about it, and then he just sort of stopped. Maybe he got a phone call.
That's probably what it was, right?
Because it looked like the beginning of a. It looked like the beginning.
Here
of a
we
proper,
go.
There
Everybody
we go. Hang
strap
on
in.
to your hat. Dear FCC, you just set back online implementations of virtual reality 10 years. Dear FCC, say goodbye to all future apps that require zero latency. There you go. That's the start of a tweet storm.
Yeah, he's basically negatively interpreting that reasonable network management portion to say, like, you're going to require us to prove why we need to manage, which means we're going to be, it's going to be a pain in the ass all the time. Rather than being able to innovate. That's a reasonable objection. It's a matter of who's in charge of the FCC when these first test cases come along and what the habit becomes.
One would hope the market would correct if somebody is doing a crappy job managing their network, that if there's a competitor there, which is the root of the problem, people will just migrate to the superior competitor.
Well, that's been my theory for years, and apparently we don't have any competitors, so it becomes harder.
Yep. The deep sigh is well practiced.
I didn't even realize that I did.
That's a 10-year sigh.
I didn't even realize I'd done a sigh. It's that natural.
So ingrained. Oh, Chimera says, I think a good episode of Star Trek came on HDNet and he got distracted. Fair point.
It's probably it.
Fair point.
It's probably it. For sure. They got a great lineup over there on the HDNet.
Look at you. Look at him.
Have you chosen?
Shark. Oh my God, that's the name of the new show, is Left Shark Tank.
Title, by the way, speaking of names.
Oh, title. Hold on. I have a job.
Keeps the Apple TV away. A little long, but sums it up nicely.
Yeah. How can we make that?
How do you trim that?
I like Beatmasters.
Twitter's there.
I like
Twitter
that.
started it? Is that it?
No, Twitter's sorry, Dick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, can we do that? I don't know if we could do that.
I think if you made it grammatically impeccable, you could.
Yeah.
You could almost. Although I hate to, I
Like
will
an
say that in
M-dash?
the event, in the event when a major CEO does stand up and say we suck at something and we have to get better, I kind of want to be on their side for a day, especially on something this important. I mean, it does make you wonder what they were thinking about in all the other days prior to this day, but whatever. It was a leak, so.
Yeah, that's always a criticism that you can give. Like, well, why didn't you think of it sooner? But then the response is always like, well, we're thought about it now. Would you rather we'd not thought about it at all? And
Yeah. No, it's fair.
It's fair on both sides. I get it. It's like, did you just notice Gamergate? Seriously? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my theory is I think what they're saying is sure, we can block accounts that we feel to be trollish. They'll make another account. Then they'll make another account, another account. So I think to me it's how do you systemically solve that problem?
We're still no closer to a title.
We could trim up silver blades, like a rumor a day keeps ITV away, something like that.
No, but then you got to have that an Apple
Yeah.
TV rumor.
Well, iTV is the way I always considered it.
But the Apple a day
Ooh, what about
illusion.
Swatch It, Apple?
I saw that.
I like that. I know it's not the story that we really talked about.
No. And so our swatch begins.
But, ooh.
Ooh, Whitehead's dollars. I like
We are the swatchers on the wall.
Ooh. These are good. Begun the troll war has.
I
Maybe not.
like Where Have I Heard This Before, actually. It's not bad.
What about Apple TV : Where have I heard this before? You want to get that in there?
You're
or-
being a responsible
Being a
search engine
responsible-
optimization person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? It actually does help clarify the
Yeah.
intent.
Yeah.
So I like that. Let's do it.
Yay.
Apple TV. Where have I heard this before?
There it is.
A little on the nose, but I don't mind, honestly.
Work.
It's good to be on the nose sometimes. It's what a nose is for.
You know what? On the nose is just another way of saying direct.
That's right. We Midwesterners, we are an on the nose people. We speak our minds at your nose.
Never a danger with bananas on bananas for you guys.
banana for scale of what?
You ever heard the phrase, this might just be a Matt Flanagan phrase, but whose phrase is it? Writer's room phrase, bananas on bananas, which is when like you have a character who is a space warrior, but they're also like, it's just like too many things piled on to one character.
Oh, I see.
Like-
You got bananas on top of bananas.
It's a joke on top of a joke on top of a
Right.
joke, and it's too many jokes. It's bananas on bananas.
Too many
I
bananas.
just did a terrible job explaining that.
You can't fool me. It's bananas all the way down.
I'm offended by that remark.
Oh, Roger, you're not a banana.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
a-
not yellow enough.
You're a lemon.
Lemon? Oh, it's because I'm
Oh.
sour.
Sour on the inside.
What's the lemon lime hybrid? Then like they actually produce
Lyman?
a lemon. I'd be more like a
Lyman.
lemon because
He's a lemonlyman.com.
I'm sour and bitter. It's kind of like it's the opposite of a sweet and sour sauce. It's a sour and bitter sauce.
I was really banking on that. Find the joy and the miracle of life, but maybe that's like a later thing. Maybe the kid has to sleep for 5 hours
This
a
is
night
the more
first.
joyous Roger. Can't you tell?
This is as high as it gets, especially after 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Nice.
Maybe a couple of years.
Decades. It doesn't end. Once you hitch your train to that, it doesn't come off.
Oh boy.
Going off the rails on a crazy train. Oh no,
Bosman has
Tinvec,
a-
no! He wrote too many jokes. Too many jokes.
Ah.
Eh,
Oh my gosh. Baz Luhrmann is going to be doing a Netflix show about New York City during the late 70s on the explosion of hip-hop, punk, and art culture.
Ooh. So it's like Life on Mars about real cool stuff.
About real cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cue it now. Now what you hear is not a test.
Or it's like Mad Men
Very-
for punk
Yeah.
rock.
Yeah. And hip-hop. And
hip-hop.
That's amazing.
Yeah, filming in a period in New
Chicken
York,
tastes like wood.
portions of New York looked like a moonscape.
Yeah, I lived there. I mean, I was 4, but I lived there.
It was scary times.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to New York was probably 96, I think. And I was still afraid.
Yeah.
Like it was just ingrained to be wary because you're going to New York, you know. It's not
Wary.
safe there.
It's a matter of like there were whole neighborhoods that looked like they had been bombed.
Yeah.
Were actively on fire most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was
I'll put it to you this way: the Upper West Side was dangerous. Let's just let that sink in. And Park Slope was
Yeah.
on the bubble.
Right. It was
Actually, in the 70s, Park Slope was probably
just bad,
little-
probably, right?
yeah. I didn't get there till the 80s.
Too many jokes.
Too many jokes. Too many jokes.
They're just Jenny's jokes.
Just Jenny at jokes.com.
Where have I heard this before?
Hmm.
Any jokes? Left side, uneven side.
Oh.
I am enjoying Sling TV, I have to say.
Yeah, if they
Is
give
that,
you.
is that the one from the Hopper people?
Yep,
Dish?
from
Okay.
Dish.
I get confused because there's also a Sling box that I used to own and liked.
And
So I
it's
get-
owned, that is also owned by Dish.
Yeah. They
Oh, I
can-
didn't realize that.
Yep, hence their ability to use that name.
I know. I was like, that's very bold.
And the Hopper is using Sling technology too.
Is using Sling technology. Yeah. Man, I love that. Sling like saved portions of my marriage when Matt was in New York and I was in Santa Maria. Like you were just able to watch. You know, it was no, Santa Maria was too early. But there was a time when I was like constantly traveling. 2010. That's when it was. I was working like a month at a time in New York City, and I was away from all the husbands and the TVs, and it was a way to like bridge
So
that
many
gap.
husbands. that you
So
were-
many husbands.
Of tapping into my TiVo. I've still got it set up. I just haven't run the app in ages because
Yeah.
and has eclipsed that usefulness.
Wait, I can't believe, Todd, that you already have that behind you and I don't. I have to write Len. I'm writing Len right now.
Are you talking about this lovely piece
Yeah.
of wall?
I have to purchase
One thing
it.
that's funny
Hold on.
that I've run into showing people Sling TV is they're like, so you have to have Dish Network for this? I'm like, no, it doesn't have anything to do with Dish Network. You just have to subscribe to it.
If they get to the point where they giving you invites to hand out, Tom, I dibs.
All right. Yeah, no, I only got mine thanks to a Cord Killers listener who got his invite emailed and for some reason was like, I'm not going to be able to use it, so I'm giving it to you guys. And Brian said something about Tom I can't remember what he said. The way he phrased it made me think that he was conceding it to me, so I just went ahead and used it. And then later he's like, yeah, thanks for just doing it. On the show, he's like, yeah. But then he admitted he didn't have time. So we can share the login. The thing is you can't use the account in two separate devices at a time. But we could use it off times from each other. Yeah.
That's not that critical. I'm just curious to see if this will be the beginning of the things that fill that gap. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I don't feel unentertained. I mean, Netflix, Hulu, and Antenna DVR'd through a media center. I'm not missing anything I care to watch.
I'll tell you, the thing that Sling TV gets most people that they miss is live ESPN, which you can't get otherwise. And the thing that it gets Eileen that she would not get without DirecTV is the ability to just turn on HGTV or Food Channel and just have some stuff on. And Sling TV is actually even better than what we get from DirecTV because unlike ESPN, HGTV allows you to go back 3 days to any of their shows that they have put on the air.
The way God intended.
Yeah, and you don't have to set a DVR or anything. It's just always there on demand.
They're DVRing on your behalf.
Yeah, it's the Hopper technology, essentially. But it's in the cloud.
Yeah, it's on a grand scale.
Yeah.
What Aereo tried to be for broadcast TV. Oh.
Yeah, except
Growing up
Aereo
for
didn't
Aereo.
get licenses, and Sling TV did.
Detail!
And Sling TV doesn't have any broadcast channels. You have to get those over the air. But thankfully, I live in a place where I can, so that works for me.
Yeah, the one I'm holding out for is the first package that comes along that has BBC America. We'll get my cash.
All right. I'm hearing myself back again.
Yeah.
So weird.
Try again, Tom.
Hi, everyone.
Weird. It's so intermittent.
But Jenny, you never hear yourself back?
No.
Only me.
Maybe it's Tom's fault.
Sometime
Yeah, maybe.
catching up. Don't know.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone, for watching. I'm out of the post.
I was never in the post, but it's probably
I'll be in the post shortly.
I have miles to go to be in the post because I didn't do the show notes. Todd Whitehead.
Hey.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye, video.